I never told you how we ended up getting into this apartment. I only told you that when we moved here, there were roaches falling from the ceiling. Logically, I would not have moved into an apartment that had roaches falling from the ceiling unless I had to. Okay, so the day that I got out of therapy, I had my 6 children to take care of, plus 2 of their friends that they brought along that were homeless. We rented an apartment. At the time, I was the only one working. I managed to take care of all of us, keep us fed, get our clothes washed, put gas in the car until the 2 oldest boys got jobs. Cool. We were in that apartment for 6 months. While we were in that apartment, one of my sons, and the 2 kids I'm talking about are none of the 3 here. One of my sons busted out a window and almost bled to death in front of all of his siblings and his girlfriend. Very traumatizing. Then my other son, the youngest boy, put a him-sized hole in the wall when he was throwing a temper tantrum for whatever reason. Besides that, the apartment had become so overrun with mice that they were chewing the wiring in the walls. And we couldn't get the landlord, which ended up being a slumlord that everyone in this town knows is a slumlord. We couldn't get them to fix anything. So we were a month away from our lease being up anyway. So instead of paying for the very last month on our lease, I used that as a down payment to move. So, and that's how I ended up getting an eviction on my record, which will come into play later trying to get this place, because I almost didn't get this place. I had to go to the people that gave me the eviction and start to make payments on that, what I owed them for the damage to the apartment and for the 1 month rent that they didn't get. And then I had to convince them to give me a letter saying that I was in decent standing or good standing with them so that I could get my current landlord to trust me enough to rent to me, because who wants to rent to somebody with an eviction? Especially since that landlord faxed them over, this landlord, pictures of the damage. But I explained to them the situation, that it was like a mental health situation with my kids, and that I would do what I could to make payments in a timely manner. And that was also the apartment where I accidentally flooded the kitchen and the apartment beneath us because I left the water running in the kitchen all night. So there's that. It was like $4,000 worth of damage. So after we moved from that apartment, we ended up moving into a really pretty decent apartment with really, really, really nice landlords. They were women. And we ended up getting that apartment because I was working at FedEx at that time, and my boss that really, really liked me happened to be the baby daddy of the landlord that ended up renting to us. So when I put him down as a reference, or when I put down that I worked at FedEx and that he was my boss, she was like, "Oh my God, that's my baby daddy," and all sort of stuff. And so she like called him right there on the spot. He was like, "Yeah, that's Furiel. She's cool as shit. Go ahead and rent to her." And they gave us the keys. I couldn't believe it. So yes, we ended up staying there for like 3 years. So the whole time we were there, it was very, very challenging to be able to take care of everyone. And a lot of things happened while we were there. There was a lot of healing that needed to be done, and I had to learn how to communicate with my kids, and there was a lot of trauma that had to be brought up and dealt with, and we went through a lot there. So one day, I'm driving down the street with Fire. We're going to the food bank, and I get a phone call. And it's daggone Section 8 calling me, telling me that we've been bumped up on the list and that we can either get a Section 8 voucher or a brand new townhouse. And you would think that I would be happy about that, but as soon as she said that to me, I instantly started panicking. And that should have been a red flag to me. And I try not to regret, because I'm glad that we are here now. And if anything would have changed, I would not be the woman that I am right now. But they gave us an option to stay where we were and use a voucher. And I wish we probably would have done that. But we didn't, because who's going to turn down a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhouse? We took it. You had me at 2 bathrooms. So it ended up that we chose the option to go to housing. If I had it to do again, I would never do that. I would never do that. See, the housing program, you have to have a certain amount of income. You have to be low income to qualify for the program. But once you've been accepted into the program and move in, it doesn't matter how much money you make. There will be a cap to your rent for the rest of your life. For our townhouse, I think we would have never paid more than $1,000, no matter how much our income was. But other than that, they use some type of percentage. You had to be in some type of percentile. So the process was grueling. They went through all of our business. I'm talking about bank records, tax forms, everything. They just went through all of our business. And when we finally got approved, and this is like 2 months later, when, you know, everything, we turned in everything, social security cards, IDs, goddamn DNA. And we're all the way up to the point where we're signing the lease. Now, the woman that was taking care of our case the entire time, she was really pushing our case through. She was really pushing our paperwork through, because she was like, this is first come, first serve. And you always want to be the one to get your paperwork in first. So you say that to me, I'm on it. She told me, because at the time, Judah was between jobs. And when we were turning in income, he had to sign a paper saying that he didn't have income. She told me, if he gets a job before you sign the lease, don't say anything about the income, because it's going to stall the process. So I'm like, all right, bet. Fast forward, we're at the lease signing. Now, this lease was 90 pages long. 90 pages long. I had a copy of it before we went to the lease signing, and I read all 90 pages. I read them. When we got to the lease signing, they went through every single page of that lease. It took us an hour and 45 minutes to get to the last page. It was Judah and I. So we're sitting in there and we're just suffering through this man talk all slow and then stop in the middle of a sentence and tell a story, because it was just an old guy that worked for the city for a very long time. So if we even looked like we had a question, he would go so deep into detail, it would just take so much longer. So it's been an hour 45 minutes. We get to the very last page, and he looks up and he says, has there been any change in your income? I look at Judah. Judah looks at me. Judah looks back down. I look at that man and I say, right? Because I don't want to lie, but I can't tell the truth, because I've got the dog and the kids in the car. The movers are on their way in an hour with our entire apartment packed up. The utilities have been transferred. My savings has been blown through paying for these movers and getting all of our debt paid off so that we can get all of the utilities transferred. There is no, our income's changed, so now we may possibly not be able to move into this place. We have nowhere else to go situation. I really was between a rock and a hard place. But that was the biggest mistake I could have possibly made, was telling them people that there was no income change. I honestly thought that if I reported that income change after we moved, that everything would be okay. And it wasn't. 6 weeks later, Judah's at his new job. We're all moved into the townhouse. Everybody's nice and comfortable in the central air, walking up and down the flights of stairs, using both bathrooms for no reason. Just loving the on-campus laundry. Just, it was heaven. It was as if we lived in an Airbnb. After I turned in Judah's new income, I got a letter. I opened it, and it said, notice of lease termination. They done recalculated our income and deemed us ineligible for this townhouse, canceled our lease, and said we had to get the fuck up out of there. And I just wanted to die. I couldn't breathe. Like, in that moment, I couldn't breathe because I knew this was going to happen. When that lady told me that we had been approved for that townhouse, she asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to think about it. Because honestly, this terrifies me. To uproot my family after we had been, of course, I had to go tell her my whole recovery story. And all. I've got my recovery story down to 60 seconds. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, this is the most stable I've ever been in my entire life. I really don't want to uproot my family. My kids are homeschooled. We got mental health stuff going on. I finally got us on some type of routine. I don't want to change all that. I knew it was over when we spent the first night there, and Roger woke up and said that he had a dream that we had moved. My kids have prophetic dreams, and we all knew it was over, and we all turned around and got mad at him. Like, why you always talking all that shit? Like, how you gonna get mad at somebody for having a dream? But yeah, I think we all knew that it was over as soon as he had that dream. Like, I pushed that eviction out for almost 4 months. They do give you an opportunity to go and state your side and try to get a different decision. And the people that made the decision about when you had to leave ended up knowing my father-in-law. So, a couple strings were pulled, but down to the wire we were trying to find a place. Because of that eviction on my record and a low credit score, every management company out here, and I printed out every one of them in the entire town. I called 32 of them, and every single last one of them denied us. A lot of my savings I blew on application fees. It was crazy. But now I'm an expert at being able to know what landlords are looking for and just how to navigate the situation. I know now to call and talk to the landlord and let them know your situation ahead of time and see if they'll be willing to work with you instead of just paying application fees and hoping that you can just, no. These people have been through a lot with tenants, and they want high credit scores and no evictions. And a lot of them did not want pets either. And that was another issue because we had an emotional support animal. The American Disabilities Act is supposed to make it so landlords can't not rent to you because you have an animal, but they're going to do whatever they want to do. And that is how I ended up meeting this landlord. I just was under so much stress and such a time crunch and so much pressure to try to find a place. I was working at the Coca-Cola plant and just busting my tail and saving all my money because I knew I was going to need 2 to 3 times the amount of the rent, and I knew the rent would be between $8,000 and $1,000. My rent's $1,100 for a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. So I ended up doing the most and ended up getting this lady to rent to us, and she's been the best landlord that I've ever had in my life. But this was the absolute worst apartment. It's a really cute apartment, but it was teeming with roaches. I had to scrub every inch of this apartment from the top to the bottom 3 times. And I mean deep clean. There was a thick yellow liquid on the walls. I don't know what kind of demonic shit these people were in here doing, but I was in here scrubbing demons out. I'd never seen anything like that. It pushed me to a manic state. It was very hard. It was very hard to deal with. And the guilt of putting the kids through this, the guilt of still having to almost be homeless at this big age of mine, it was humbling, but it brought my family together in a way that I didn't expect. I thought they would be upset with me, and they weren't. They didn't blame me at all, which was odd. I thought I would have blamed me. I did blame me. But it just showed me how amazing my family is and how grateful I am. But I just can't stop manically cleaning. I made several videos about what it was like when we first got here. But the whole apartment has been exterminated because I do the most, and yeah, kind of made everybody clean up their stuff. And the landlord got real proactive because I was just throwing her cash like, listen, I'm gonna need you to solve this problem because do you see this? I kept sending out. I was sending her pictures at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. I would be sitting there looking at these German cockroaches peek their head out from above the ceiling. Like, it has to be a psyop. These creatures are highly intelligent and they're sneaky and they watch you. It was crazy. German cockroaches are something different. And they had like 3-4 different subspecies of them things running up into here. I've never seen anything like it in my life. That brought me closer to my bleach and my God. But that is how we ended up here. And the whole neighborhood has improved. Because when I tell you, we did everything to get rid of these bugs. Every remedy, every poison of every form, of every type, I partook in. I've never felt so insane and so overwhelmed and so powerless in my life. I've never felt so powerless in my life. But now, here we are, 6 months later, and this has turned into a very nice home. But I'm not getting too comfortable because this is not the end for us. No, this is just the beginning. But I'm glad that it happened because when I do acquire my wealth, it's something that is so ingrained deeply in me. That experience is so etched on my soul. I will never forget where I came from, ever. And I will always stay humble. So for that, I'm grateful.